All right, welcome back. I just wanted to see how things are going with you a little bit. I know you talked about some of the big exams coming up, so were you able to kind of organize your time? I know you said you were stressed about that, so how did those go?
Yeah, I mean, I think I did pretty well. I always leave a test feeling like I did crappy, so we'll see how the grade goes. But yeah, no, I got some studying in. I was able to prepare myself a little bit. So
Yeah, are you excited for vacation coming up?
yeah, I need vacation.
Yeah, well, that's good. I know it's hard to sometimes organize school and sports and everything, but sounds like more or less you're able to handle it.
There's
Um,
just so many things to pay attention to.
yeah, yeah, so much to do at once. And is practice going okay? I know we've talked a little bit about stuff, but overall, still
Um, so actually, my coach pointed out like I kind of seem a little spacey lately, and I told him
okay.
it's because like I'm trying to work on a lot of the stuff we've been working on, but I'm thinking a lot about it. And so, I mean, I know we discussed that might happen, but it's just
Yeah.
he pointed it out to me, so I just figured I'd let you know.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's good to know, and we'll keep checking in about that. You know, that's I mean, as long as it's not taking away from your performance or anything, it probably is a little bit new to you, so it might be appeared to that to you might come across like that a little bit, but as long as everything else is going well. Um,
I mean, I'm
so
definitely learning the skills. Like that, I think they're helpful. It's just taking me a while. Like, I have to really think about it when I'm doing it, and so
okay.
I
All
think that's
right.
the only thing I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, we'll check into, maybe we can add another session sometime just to go over some of those skills if you have any more questions and do a little maybe check in the afternoons, even if it's like a 10-minute session. But if that helps, we can
Yeah,
kind of
and
do.
I think I understand the concepts. It's just trying to
Okay.
get them down.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like,
A lot of them definitely take practice and stuff. So it's
yeah,
okay if you feel like that in the beginning.
yeah.
So I know in the past we've talked a little bit about some of the things that you wanted to work on, and so today I wanted to talk a little bit about. And it's funny that you said your coach said you were appearing a little bit spacey and stuff because one of the things that from the very beginning you talked about is being distracted sometimes in practice, and so I thought today I'd bring to the table a little bit about concentration and focus and that kind of thing because you had mentioned at one point that sometimes that seems to be something you struggle with. So I thought
Yeah.
maybe we could learn a technique today, and that might really help now, especially with like your exams and stuff going on. This might even be a skill you can use outside of sports and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
So just a little bit of background before we start into everything. In sports, concentration and focus is kind of being in the moment and being present to what's everybody gets distracted, so that's normal. What are a couple of things that you might get distracted by? Let's pick a game. What do you think comes up sometimes? Just
The competition. Let's see. I like to, kind of talk a little smack to the opponent, and when it's a rivalry, that the smack talk definitely increases a lot, and so sometimes it helps me, but my coach has definitely pointed out that I can get kind of carried away and like I kind of lose my cool. Not to the point where I make a foul or anything. It's just I kind of get thrown off my game. So I definitely think that just hearing the opponents talk to me or something, like it throws me off my game a lot.
yeah, okay, all right. So there's actually a number of things that you can do, and sometimes distractions can lead to a little bit of anxiety and that kind of thing too. So there's a number of techniques and theories that have been applied to this. One thing that's really important too is if you notice that the distractions, like you just talked about the one with the smack talk a little bit, but sometimes people can be distracted by their own internal thoughts and maybe it can lead to losing confidence and that kind of thing. But one thing that's important is having routines. So when you get ready for a game or even practice, do you notice, probably more a game, do you notice that you have a routine? Do you always get taped at the same time? Do you listen to the same music? Tell me about your routine a little bit.
So same songs since I've started in the same playlist order. I'm always in the locker room when I'm listening to the music, and I get about an hour of like just getting ready, like getting dressed and stuff. I'm a very superstitious individual, so like I put my socks on the same way every game. I tie the same shoe first before every game. Like I'm very meticulous with my routine. And actually, it's gotten to the point sometimes where I've need to start over, like just to make sure I got it down. But then after I get out of the locker room, it goes right into our team warm-ups. And then I go off to the side with one of either a fellow teammate, or if we have a trainer nearby or something like that, I'll go get some extra stretching in, and I will do some, one-on-one work where it's like maybe I'll just need some quick passes or like quick one touches, and I'll go work by myself. So I do the teamwork, I go work by myself, and then we come back together on the bench to plan our game plan. So that's pretty much that's what I try to stick to almost every game.
Cool. And that's awesome. It's really important. Obviously, if it becomes more of an issue where you feel like you have to keep starting over, that's something to address too. But,
it doesn't happen much.
But it's really interesting that you say that, and that's great. And it's really important for athletes to have those kind of routines, because sometimes if people are getting ready and it's sporadic, they're always worrying. And, the more relaxed you can be going into a game, the better the ability have to pay attention to what's going on during the game. So it's great that you have a routine, because it really helps you enter into the game relaxed. And that's important. So staying focused, during the game is important, but sometimes we're not even aware of when we're distracted. Like, I think you're aware that sometimes the smack talk, is something that distracts you. Are there any other things that you notice sometimes that might be a distraction, or that you can think about now and you say, oh, I guess that does distract me?
Yeah, I would say the ref. Like, if a call goes against a teammate, like I do a pretty good job of just not paying attention to the ref, but sometimes like, if it's a really close game and a bad call's made, it can really take me off of what I'm trying to do. Like, so I play striker, and so I really need to make sure I'm on the right side of the field, like strong side, try to get to the ball. But I'll notice that I'm out of position if like I lose focus or something. Like I find myself out of position, and that's kind of when it's like, oh no, it's too late. Like, why are you all the way on the other side of the field? Like, you need to be back here. So that's usually how I know when it's like, oh, I need to get back into it.
Okay. And that's good. That's good awareness. So the ref would be, there's two types of distractions that we can face in sport. One of them you just mentioned is an external distraction, and another is an internal distraction. So just by that by explanation, what do you think would be an internal distraction?
Maybe just hearing the opponent keep saying stuff to me, and like if I just keep playing it over in my head.
Kind of gets you.
Yeah.
Do you ever have any, do you ever doubt, or do you ever say things in your head, maybe anything that maybe affects your confidence, or do you ever notice anything like that?
Penalty kicks. I hate penalty kicks so much, but being a striker, I have one of the better shots on the team. So my coach is like, you have to take it for us. Like, we need you to step up. So that's definitely where I lose the most focus, and I definitely don't have much confidence doing it. So that plays a big factor.
So what happens when you're is it when you're walking up to the line, or even before that? Tell me what happens. What goes through your mind during that time?
So I walk up. I have a routine for a penalty kick. I'll be spinning the ball as I'm walking up in my hands. Just, I don't know why, it just helps me get a feel for it. And I walk down. I put the ball down. I pick the spot in my head. I try not to look at the spot so that the goalie doesn't know, but I pick a spot, and then where it really becomes a problem is when I'm walking away from the ball. So I'll put the ball down, pick a spot, turn around, and walk away from the ball. And then when I turn around, I'm ready to kick. The part of that where it really becomes a problem is after I pick my spot, I'm like, okay, I'm good. But then my thoughts will come in my head. I just want to have a clear head after that. But that's when I really start to have those confidence issues, and things just start popping in my head, and it throws me off.
So that's something, like you said, the confidence issues where you maybe self-doubt or question or whatever, and those can be internal distractions. And that can come up. So there's the two different kinds, the ref or the competition, and then the internal distractions is maybe the internal dialogue you're having with yourself. So I'd like to introduce to you maybe a couple techniques that might help, and that it sounds like walking to the penalty line would be, or from it, this would be a great application, a great place to apply this technique. So these are called cue words. And this is just one way to help bring your focus back. Sometimes, when you're trying to stay focused, you're focusing on what's important, what's right in front of you, what's relevant. And sometimes we get distracted by internal distractions, the irrelevant, and cues or stimuli or something like that. So this is to help bring your focus back, to help you stay present, to help you be in the moment at that time. So there's a couple different things that you can use. And if you look on, your handout, we talked a little bit about, we talked about the cues, and there's 3 things that I'm going to teach you. So there's a cue word, and there's a physical cue, and there's also a visual cue. So the first one I'm going to introduce to you is called a cue word. And the cue word is just something that you can say to yourself when you notice that you're starting to lose focus, and you're kind of drifting and not paying attention. And so it's just one word that you say to yourself, and you get in the routine or the habit of saying that word and bringing your focus back. So maybe when I'm shooting free throws and I'm listening to the crowd, I'm going to say focus. And that's going to bring my focus back to what I need to do and to, making sure I have the correct form or something like that for my free throw if I was playing basketball. So think about that a minute and think about a word that you might be able to apply.
So actually, I do that sometimes. I guess I could do it a lot more often, but one word I use is stop. Like if I keep hearing that opponent's voice in my head, like say something. So like an example, like if I miss the shot and the opponent says something like about that, and I keep hearing that voice over and over, like mocking me missing the shot, I'll just say like stop. Good. And I mean, sometimes it works, but I don't really do it often. But I guess if we're going to use a word, it'd be stop.
Okay. So stop would be a great word. So you could also use that after you've spun the ball and you set it down and you pick your spot and you want to look, you're trying to get a clear head and you're thinking about the things that you need to pay attention to. And you picked your spot and you know where the goalie is and all that, but all of a sudden you're walking away and you maybe have a little bit of self-doubt, things are going through your mind. That would be a great time to say stop.
Okay.
And then bring your attention back to just the feel of the shot, the thinking about right where you're going to place the ball and that kind of thing. So as you're walking away and you hear those voices, this would be the time to use the cue word and you would say stop.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. All right. So that's one. And, it's important as an athlete to keep your concentration, just because you're always thinking during the game, things are always changing, but it's really important to be able to bring that right back to where you need it and do it quickly. Our attention can change all the time from paying attention to a big field or a small field, or where exactly like this, a penalty kick, shooting right in, the corner of the net or something like that. So that's really important. So that's a cue word, and that's something we gave an example of when you can use that. The next thing is a physical cue. And this might be a good thing I would suggest that you use when you're kind of trash talking your opponent a little bit. And it's just like a tap. So a lot of sports, it's easy to tap yourself on the leg. It's not very obvious, but it really brings that attention back to what you need to do. So, you can think about how that would work for you. Maybe a clap. Or,
ask that one actually. Yeah, I like that. So like a clap is good?
Yeah, any kind of physical cue that you'll be able to use and you'll be able to recognize right when you're distracted or you need to bring your thoughts back, you can apply that. So is a clap something that would work for you during a game?
Yeah, definitely. Just like a 1-2-handed clap would definitely help me. I usually do that before a game, like when I'm ready. I just don't even notice that I'm doing it until you said that.
Yeah. So that would be a great time. So you kind of, when you start trash talking that opponent and it gets a little, maybe out of control or something, you just clap, and that's when turn and walk away. Where's the ball? What's happening to the game and that kind of thing.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so clap would be a good one. So the last one is a visual cue, and this you could actually apply to when you're taking penalty kicks. And a visual cue is something you want to find somewhere that you can look on the field or in the gym, depending on what your sport is, that will, that's pretty consistent. So in soccer, there's things that are consistent from field to field. What can you think of? Even if you're in an away game, what's one spot that you could find that you could always find at a different field that's not even your home field, but that's going to be the same?
The penalty marker always should be the same distance away from the goal.
Yeah. So you'll always see that dot out there, no matter what field you're on. Mm-hmm. And that's a good thing too, is if you start to get distracted, again, if you're talking to your opponent, or if you're walking away from the minute you turn around and walk back to get ready for your penalty kick, you look at that spot right there, and that should bring back your focus, because you're going to train yourself to know, when I look at that spot, I'm focusing on what I need to focus on. I'm attending to the cues or stimuli that I need to pay attention to at that time. So if it's the penalty kick, it's looking only in the spot that you're going to shoot at. If it's if you kind of drift your eyes that way for a minute in the middle of a game and you're in the middle of the field, but you're distracted by your opponent, you look over there for a minute, it brings your mind back and you say, okay, what is my assignment right now? Am I playing defense? Am I in offense? What do I need to be doing right now, rather than getting distracted by talking to your opponent or what your opponent's doing or something like that.
So I think I would probably, then with that explanation, I'd probably change mine then, because I wouldn't really want to be watching the penalty mark. So I'd probably use just the ball as a visual cue, because I was saying, if I notice that I'm too far away from the ball, I'm probably losing focus, because I theoretically should be strong side the most. So I think if I find the ball during a game, that would probably help me the most.
Okay, so the ball would be your visual cue.
Yeah.
So that's you. Okay, cool. So if you look on that handout that I gave you, we talked a little bit about different distractions and that kind of thing, but I was also talking about cues that you could pay attention to too, because it's important to know what's going on and to keep your focus in the present. So what are some cues, or sometimes they're defined as stimuli or referred to as stimuli? What are some things that you should be paying attention to all the time during your sport?
All right, so where the ball is,
Okay.
who has the ball on my team. So basically, if it's a defender that has it, I know it's probably going to take a couple passes to get to me. So I want to position myself near a midfielder who can get it to me. And also where the defensive line is. So in soccer, you have offsides. If I'm a striker, so if I was to go behind the defense, I'd be offside. So I always got to know where that line is, and even actually where the linesman is, because it's such a tough call to make that I sometimes can, if I see where the linesman is, I can almost not cheat a little bit, but I know I can get away with being slightly offside if I know what position they're looking at me from. Because if they're not directly lined up with me, it can be tough to see it. So I'm paying attention to almost all those things during a game.
Okay. And it's interesting that you say that, because one of the cues you have as a soccer player is the ball, but also you're looking at the whole field. So it's interesting, just a little fact, I guess, for you to know is your focus is shifting all the time during sport. You may be looking at a whole field. You might be looking at one point, when you're taking a penalty kick or something, one point in the net, you're looking right at the ball or somebody that you're going to pass to. So you're always changing your focus from broad to narrow and that kind of thing. Sometimes you're thinking internally about what's the next pass I'm going to make because you're making a play. And sometimes you're thinking externally, like you said, well, the defense is set up this way, so I need to shift. So there's a lot of things that are going on during a game as well. So it's really important to be able to shift your focus, appropriately, just while you're playing. But that's also why it's important to be concentrating the whole time and not get distracted. So that's where these cues would come in. So just to sum up what we were talking about, what was the cue where you thought you might use during a game when you felt your focus drifting?
I'm going to tell myself to stop.
Okay, good. And then we talked about a physical cue too that you could use to bring your focus back. What was that?
Yeah, I'm going to clap. And actually, I think it's going to help me if I clap and then say stop. So can you use these together?
Yep, that's great. If you feel like that's more effective for you, you can. Sometimes different ones come into play at different times, but if you want to combine them, you can use them together if that's more effective.
Yeah, I think that would help me if I clap and then just tell myself stop. I think that would really help me refocus.
Great. And then we talked a little bit about a visual cue too. And what was your visual cue to help bring your focus back?
The ball, so knowing where it is, and if I see the ball, I know I'm focused on the game.
Great. So just to sum up, we talked a little bit about focus and concentration. We talked about internal and external distractions. We talked about the importance of staying focused and paying attention to relevant cues and stimuli, just because your focus is always changing and you have a job to do out there. So it's important not to be distracted. And we talked about how to bring your focus back when you feel like you're losing attention. So it's important too to know when you're losing your attention or your focus. Like you talked about, it seems like you're pretty aware of when you trash talk a little bit and when you need to be focused. And I hope that when you're working on your penalty kicks and stuff, that really helps you. And maybe this week coming up, you could do those. If you're doing a drill during practice or something, you could utilize those words a little bit and see how it affects your focus and it affects you when you're practicing PKs.
Definitely. Yeah, I definitely will.
Cool. So I know we're a little bit crunched for time, but do you have any questions?
No, just basically just if you can combine cues, that's okay. But yeah, you answered that. So.
Okay, great. All right, we'll work on that this week. And if we need a couple more of those like 10-minute check-in sessions just to see how some of these techniques are developing and how you're working on those, or if you need any more tips or anything, let me know. But otherwise, I'll see you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks.
All righty, thanks.